Hey guys, welcome to another
Hi.
episode of Siffany's Walk with Grace. Today I think we're going to be talking about boundaries.
Yeah, about boundaries. It's a really big subject, and I'm trying to think how to kind of bring it down, simplify. That's also one of my big things. I really like to simplify, and I've been able to simplify a lot for myself by use of some diagrams, maybe. So I thought I might try one today. Um, so when I left my practice when I was totally broken, physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, all of it, I started just kind of coming up with these kind of my own way of looking at things and gaining some insight. So one of the first things I came up with last time, I'm going to integrate two things for you. I'm going to integrate the infinity sign along with boundaries. So I want to talk about the infinity sign first, okay? So last time I talked about, let's see.
You saw nothing. It's really cold in my den.
Yeah. Okay. So I talked about kind of just the number 8. I talked about kind of this.
For this piece, I'm going to bring the video camera forward a little bit, guys. So that, yeah, that didn't work so well. I'm going to hold it because we're getting a glare on there.
Oh, we are getting a glare.
There we go.
Okay. All right. And I mentioned, I like to look at it from up here, but then I'm playing around, and I love my shapes and this kind of thing. So I started playing around, and I'm like, oh, what if I put one here? Well, it looks like a flower. And I think nature loves symmetry. I think ultimately God, however you want to look at that, loves symmetry. And that we can connect things out of that. So from here, I kind of looked at this one can be seen as...
Let's grab a different marker. That one's not
different
showing
marker.
up as well.
Okay.
1 second, guys.
1 second. Sorry about that. Let's try...
Yeah, it's just being feisty.
Let's try this one. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
There we go. Okay.
Actually, I might be able to... If you hit the other two real quick, they can see it from here now.
Ah, okay. So you have your one going up and down, and then you have your one going side to side. Okay. This one I view as... this is kind of your upper... This side connects you up to the ethers, connects you up to whatever you want to call that. God, sky, the sun. I often view it as the sun. This one connects you down to the earth, right? And this is kind of where you are, kind of here in the middle, right? This side, then if you look this way, this one connects you to your emotions. This one connects you to your thoughts. Okay? So this one connects you to your God source, to infinity, all the things, everything, encompasses everything. This one brings you down to kind of the earth, and then your emotions and your thoughts. Your emotions and your thoughts are what carry you.
Is this something like maybe your emotions and your thoughts? When you find that middle ground, everything works in harmony type of thing.
Kind of, yes. And in boundaries, I wanted to talk about what I call containment. You can look at it also as containment, okay? So if I find that I'm way too out here in my emotions, right?
You
out
just
here.
made a mess out of your picture.
Yeah, I know.
That's funny.
I'm out here and there's too much is going on over here.
Right.
I'm out of balance. So what do I need? I need to contain my thoughts, right? Boundary. That's my boundary. I understand I need to hone myself back in. If I'm too emotional, if I'm out here and I'm going crazy, I need to contain myself.
I mean, that's a good way to put it.
I need to put my own boundary in place.
I think that's pretty simplified.
Mm-hmm. And that, you know, we look at containment and boundaries as bad things, but if we can relax into the idea that containments and boundaries are necessary for me to be healthy, then I'm not going to fight those boundaries so much. I'm not going to fight the containment. And I'm going to understand that when something happens in my life to kind of, there's something that now I have a block in front of me. If instead that I'm like, oh, you know, get out of there. If I could say, oh, why are you there? Something, you're containing me for a reason. You're stopping me for a reason. What do I need? Am I being too emotional? Am I up in my head too much? Do I need to get grounded? That kind of thing. So I look at containment and boundaries as my helpers. They're not there to make me, they're there to make me a better person. So I'm going to allow them as they come in. So, you know, I've been told, knock it off, Grace, you're being too emotional. You know, what's wrong with you? Is like, it can be jolting, you know, and what's your first reaction? You know, F you.
And it's really disrespectful because, like, to honor that person is to honor their emotions. And so by saying something like that, in a way, it's dishonoring that person and dishonoring their validity to feel that way. Like,
but it's tricky because also in those moments, if I can take that pause, which is kind of what's needed, I think, when someone, because you have every right to say, whoa, that's too much for me. Okay, that's your side. My side is what? But I need to be heard. But can I take that second to myself and say, oh, okay, I am too much for that other person.
Right.
Can I rein it back in? That's a personal boundary, right? That's a personal lesson for myself that, oh, maybe there's a better way of doing this, or maybe I need to spend time alone with my emotions. You know, if I realize that my emotions are way too much for the people around me, which is perfectly their privilege and right to say so. But I need to emote because I just know I need to.
Just like we're supposed to honor the emotions, the person with the emotions also has to honor the boundaries of the other person, the other party.
So there's boundaries on both sides. So being aware that you're going to bring me your boundaries, and I'm aware that I need to make my boundaries, and then I'm aware that I need to give you boundaries, and I need to let you be responsible for those boundaries. Now it's become this big thing. And that's why it's lifelong. I don't think you can ever just get totally clear with boundaries and say, oh, I'm done. I've done my work on that. It's all good.
And your boundaries and your lines are going to change as you change and grow as well. So some are going to get stronger. Some are going to shrink down. Some are going to come up that weren't there before. Some are going to go away. So it's... back to that infinity sign.
Back and forth, in and out, up and down. I think you and I have done a lot of good work in that area, just on that specific with the boundaries, right? Because there were times, sometimes I'm in such a good, easy place. I can take everything you want to give me, because I'm in a place of clarity, or I'm in a place of calm. But
sometimes I'm simply too much, and that's also okay.
And not that you're too much, but that I'm in the
it's
wrong
too much
space
for where you're at
myself.
right now. I mean, I'm
Yes.
not saying that I'm okay. Yeah, maybe I should have worded it better. Not that I'm too much. Period. Just that at that point in time,
At
it's
that
too
point in,
much.
yes. And so, that's a time when I know I have said, I can't do this right now,
Mm-hmm.
or I'll get back to you, or, and then you're going to have to deal with that on your own. You're going to have to find another way or whatever. You have to kind of wait till I'm in a better place, and then we can come back around.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's a huge piece of boundaries, just that little
And
piece.
it's also not a bad thing because, like, you don't want to wind up being somebody that someone goes to, like, all the time on a regular basis, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, like, where's our good conversations that we had and stuff, too, and why is it always about this, or why is it always bad? And it's important for us to learn how to self-soothe and self-calm. So the times where we don't have someone accessible, like, that's okay too, because take it as a time to learn to be okay with yourself.
Yeah. Which is the most important thing, is being okay with yourself and all the bits and pieces and parts, and the times that you're scattered, and the times that you've got clarity, the times that you're very emotional, the times that you're really calm. That it's never stagnant. Life just isn't stagnant. It's going to go all over the place. We were talking about the autoimmune, and that,
Actually, I don't know if that part stuck.
Oh, okay.
That might have been a piece out of one of the parts that we clipped to edit.
Okay.
Or no, we were trying to record today. I didn't hit the button hard enough.
Yeah.
I think it was in that segment.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But I'm not positive.
Okay.
So just in case.
All right. Well, Siffany.
See, real life stuff.
Yeah.
We're not perfect.
Yep. Siffany was sharing, kind of a new diagnosis, or a confirmed maybe diagnosis of lupus and autoimmune. And I've had my fair share of working with the autoimmune for myself too, as well as others, but it goes part and parcel. We know that stress is a big trigger for autoimmune flare-ups. And so, one of the first things that doctors typically will tell patients with this diagnosis is, you've got to learn to de-stress. You got to learn to take care of your stress. And stress and boundaries go hand in hand. All right, you're going to do much to decrease and get a handle on that stress through the use of boundaries.
Mm-hmm. And not to interrupt, but it happens to be that lupus you can't find unless it's in a flare-up. Like, you'll find that, okay, it's probably something in the lupus family, but it's not going to outright be like, you have lupus, unless it's flared up. And I'm pretty sure that me trying to figure out how to place a boundary in a very sensitive situation is a lot of what led to that particular flare-up. Which, awesome, I'm glad now we know. But at the same time, like, dang, I've been stressing about that so hard that, like, it flared it up bad enough for them to make it, like, an official find on it is like, oh, okay. Yeah. So, and that was mostly because I was stressing and struggling to figure out how and where and the best way to place a boundary that I needed placed. And it's not one that I can necessarily discuss just yet, unfortunately, but well, not unfortunately, I mean, it is what it is, but yeah, I struggle very hard with boundaries, but I've also noticed that sometimes you'll be surprised at the result. Like, I'll spend weeks dreading a result just to all of a sudden they're like, okay. And you're like, wait, what? I dreaded that for how long? And you're totally fine? Like, oh, okay, well, thank you. I appreciate it. Like, shut up.
Yeah. Our thoughts can be our worst enemies.
Yeah, but that's not to say that there are times that you place a boundary and unfortunately it is a negative result. That does happen too. But you'd be dumbfounded how often you fret it and then it's totally fine.
Right. And how much we needed, even though, things blew up, and, you were hoping that a boundary would make it better, and for a while and in the beginning it blew everything up. And so most of the time that's one of the reasons we fear boundaries, is we fear what's going to happen.
We fear the repercussions of standing up for ourselves.
Yeah.
Is really what, if you think about it, that's what it is. When you're placing a boundary, you're standing up for yourself. You're scared to stand up for yourself.
You're scared to stand up.
And that sucks.
Yeah.
Like, none of us should have to feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I always kind of felt like that was wrong, and it's not very loving. And yeah, we have a lot of issues with boundaries in our family, so it's definitely a work in progress. But after it blows up and some time has happened, and you're able to look back and say, oh my gosh, that was the best thing I ever did for myself. So being okay with letting things fall apart, letting the chips fall where they may, is a saying that I really like. Kind of get out of the way and see what happens. What else? You can think in boundaries in a couple different areas. You can think of them, emotional. We need nice emotional boundaries for others and for ourselves. Boundaries around our thoughts, in terms of, how well do you like the thoughts that are going on in your head, and how much are you paying attention to those thoughts, and are you letting those thoughts run rampant? And so you can kind of hone in on your thoughts, what needs to change in your thoughts. You can hone in onto your emotions, what needs to change in my emotions. You can hone into your body and the physical aspects of life. Do I need to put boundaries there? Maybe I shouldn't be carrying around that 50-pound weight. Maybe I need to ask for help. That's a boundary, believe it or not, right? Siffany is, I think, kind of famous for pushing that body probably further than she needs to. Or should.
I try really hard. I swear I do.
Yeah, it's a work in progress for her.
I don't like the fact that I'm so young and not supposed to do squat, and sometimes I just don't have the help and I need to get something done. But that's not to say that I don't lay myself up for weeks at a time doing it.
Yeah.
So it's a problem, and it's a boundary that I have worked really, really, really hard on, and finally not getting yelled at as much for it. So
yeah, yay.
I'm not supposed to lift more than a milk jug.
Yeah. And then so those are a couple different areas of boundaries. So there's all kinds of pieces and parts to it. Yeah. Know where you stand, and know where help is if you need it. That's another piece of boundaries. Like back to her body and her need for help. We don't like to ask for help. We don't like to be helpless. However, how many of us like to help others?
Which is totally fair and really ironic if you think about it. Because I base my life on that kind of, and so but I have a hard time being like, hey, someone come move this couch.
Yeah. So what is that? Let's dig into that for a minute. It feels good to help others. If you say, no, I'm going to do it myself, you're actually taking away from someone else being able to bless. And what belief do you have about yourself to not ask and allow that help? Do you know?
Yeah, I'm supposed to be Wonder Woman.
So, and what does that mean if you have to ask for help?
That I am not invincible.
So what belief needs changed?
That everybody needs help, and that it's okay to ask for help, and that they would rather help me than see me deteriorate in front of them. So
and that's how we bless each other, right? And look at the reciprocity of that. That's a beautiful movement, right?
Because they're making me last longer, and in turn saving themselves the pain of having to watch me go through it. So it
Yeah. Yep. So I would consider some of that, the root of part of that is kind of self-worth. If you put your self-worth into, I have to be able to do this and not ask for help, and that is directly correlating, or it's directly linked to my self-worth. If I have to ask for help, it means I'm less than my own expectation of Superwoman. Redefine Superwoman.
You're so cute. Wonder Woman or Supergirl.
Sorry, guys.
That's okay. You can't. My dad was the nerdy one. It's all right. We love her.
Okay. But redefine that, okay? So, Wonder Woman knows how to delegate. Wonder Woman knows how to ask. And the more that you ask for help and get that help, the more you can do in your own way, doing your own thing, and you're bringing your own blessings forward. But if you're not asking for that help and you're trying to do it all yourself, your own blessings get kind of stuck.
And I think sometimes I forget too that like people enjoy helping, so sometimes I space that. And then God, there's something else there. Hold on.
Yeah.
The train's starting to tilt and starting to derail, but I might be able to pull it back on track.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh yeah. So like, I have a lot of people that have told me that they admire that I'm able to still find a way to like be a part of my family and enjoy life with all my disabilities and like how much pain I'm in on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And so I think that might be part of it for me too, is that like that's something that they admire about me.
So you don't want to disappoint and you don't want to prove them wrong. Yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, people also admire people that are honest, and saying, hey, I need help with this is honesty. I mean, it's so my brain works weird.
No, I think that's
I feel like it does sometimes.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty real for a lot of people. If I'm asking for help, well, then they just told me how strong I am, and now here I am asking for help. So
it's like, okay, they're
weird.
like, yeah, you're strong, and now I'm like, no, I'm weak, is what it feels like in my brain. But it's not that I can't do it. It's just that it's more damaging over time. So like, yeah, I can move that couch by myself, but then I'm going to be screwed up for like 2 weeks. I'm not going to be able to do anything 3 weeks. Like I'm going to be, why would I do that?
Yeah. So, but, and that's
a personal boundary.
Yeah. And that's an example of, that maybe that boundary fluctuates from day to day because, today I know in my life, sometimes energy is a big problem for me. The physical piece, sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. And sometimes, I think I'm going to be fine that day. And then I wake up and I'm not fine. And so I got to move that boundary even on a day-to-day basis. Okay. So that's a piece of boundaries. What about stiffer boundaries? Boundaries that you realize need to be put in place because there isn't any movement there, or how do you know and how do you understand those kind of boundaries?
Those can be some of the hardest ones too.
Sure.
To place and to honor.
To place and to honor. Yeah. Many of us are at jobs that are asking us to do things that we know aren't good for us. I thought COVID was really cool in that. Let me keep going.
We're not saying yay germs. We're just we look for the good in everything.
But we look for the good in and so I call them the gifts of COVID. Hopefully I'm not going too far out on a limb here, but one of the things I appreciated was how all of a sudden in our society, it was okay to be sick. For the first time ever. If you were sick, please stay home. If you're sick, we understand. We'll find someone to cover for you. No, please don't come in because we want to protect others. What did that... I have goosebumps. We don't do that. And here we are, 2 years later, 2022, almost 2023, so almost 3 years later, we're back to the old way.
Mm-hmm.
I know for my daughter, who she works at a hospital.
Not this one, the other one.
Yeah, another one.
Well, one of the other ones.
And pretty much, unless it's COVID, in particular, they want her to come in.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah, it almost feels to me, and then and look around, fast food. Well, all our businesses are hit now, right? We're having a hard time getting people. We're having a hard time keeping people, um, and we're kind of back to, we need you. It doesn't matter that you're sick. We need you. Get in here. Where
I mean, that's so harmful to the body itself, too. Like,
yeah,
you're sick for so much longer. It takes a huge toll. And
lots of time, you need, and then and then you get sickness on top of sickness, and then, your recovery
and then
takes,
it's spreading through the work.
yeah.
But no one can afford, like, a floater employee for when people get sick. And, it's a mess.
Yeah, so that was disappointing to me because I really appreciated kind of how we were in the beginning. Yes, please stay home, which is something I've always felt we should be doing.
Mm-hmm. She ran a daycare, and let me tell you, if someone brought their kid sick, she'd be like, I'm sorry, but, like, you gotta pick your kid up. I have kids here that get sick really easy, primarily me. And so I can't, like, I can't end up with my daughter hospitalized, and how sad that it's such a problem in society.
It is such a problem. And when I worked in daycare, when I worked at a daycare center for her first year, and that's where she kept getting sick. And I would get sick, or she would be sick, and I, would call in and say, I need to stay home, or I need to stay home, and what did I get? When are you coming back? Are you sure you're not coming back? When, is her fever broke? They were just itching and trying to get me back sooner than really I should have been there. So very ongoing. But that's an example of a boundary that I think as society we're trying to navigate and trying to get better at what to do with that, and how to put that boundary in play, how to manage it. So, many places, if you call off too much, you're going to get fired. So you stay and you work through it, and here we are. So so boundaries span everywhere, really. Yeah. So that was an example. Back to, I guess, the personal ones, maybe the family ones, or more personal, that hardships are happening or behaviors are happening that aren't okay with you. Those are the ones that are, well, they all can be fearful, but that one in particular, because there's probably some kind of connection there, especially if they're family or friends, or family of family.
Yeah, or you get a lot of times where people get married and someone in the family has a problem with the person, and that's common too.
Very common.
And then where do you place that boundary? Because you don't want to affect that relationship between those family members, and you don't want to be the person in the middle going, hey, I got a problem with this. I need you to take care of it with your, whatever, uncle or something. I don't know, who knows? But it makes it a lot more difficult because we're all taught that we're supposed to push our crap aside and I think tolerate each other regardless, like for family because they're family, and but what is a group if the people in it are not strong and full? I mean, what's the point of an army if they're all crumbling? Is kind of how I look at it. So
healthy family has healthy boundaries. And healthy boundaries...
That's a better way to put it.
And healthy boundaries are attained through communicating, honesty, knowing what's affecting you, knowing what you need, or at least thinking, hey, I have an idea, this is what I think I need, and then being honest and open and willing to hear the other person and to kind of hear what's important to them. And somewhere along the line, hopefully you can make a compromise. I know a lot of times for me, my boundaries have to be firm when the other isn't honest, open, and willing to kind of work with me. So sometimes
I'm in that situation right now where I have to place a boundary that wouldn't be near as tall if they were honest, open, and willing.
Yeah.
I'm not going into detail on that one, but
and it makes it really hard for you to put that boundary down.
It does, because I'm like, man, if I put that boundary down, how am I going to affect person A, B, C, and D out of this? But if I don't put it down, then how are all these people, including myself and my house, affected? So it's kind of weird. It's one of those, like, because let's be honest. I mean, when one person in your house feels out of whack, everyone kind of feels it. So it does affect everybody, and how I place that boundary is also going to affect everybody, because I mean, especially when you're talking about familial stuff in this, and I'm not necessarily saying like who or what, but like just in general, we're talking about familial, and a lot of times you'll be living with that person you need a boundary with. I don't know why I just pointed at you for that, because we don't live together, but family.
Yep, we have to learn boundaries.
Yeah, and when you're living with people, that matters quite a bit more, I think, because home is everyone's safe haven, but for it to remain that way, everyone's needs need met, and sometimes those needs are boundaries, and that can be really hard to do. Maybe, I don't know, maybe your sibling's boyfriend is stealing from you or something when they go to the bathroom and you're not home, and you have to place a boundary, like, as the mom, knowing this is going on or something, but then you're going to get the backlash of, well, now my daughter's going to be pissed because her boyfriend's not allowed over, right? So, but you also know that this other kid over here is being affected by it, and you got to look out for both of them, and, so it can be a challenge.
Yeah. Boundaries are everywhere. So start small. Look at everything, in all different aspects of life. We have to put boundaries on our spending. Again, the containment, like, where are your walls? Where are you allowed? Where are you not allowed? And to understand that some of those are for protecting, right? Because, if I didn't care where I spent my money and, spend all my money the last day of the month and now I don't have rent, I just really messed with myself and my family. So boundary. And
then you just went and bought a Beauty and the Beast size amount of books and nowhere to put them because now you lost your house.
Yeah.
I like books.
So, so boundaries are everywhere. They're interpersonal, between person and person. They're inner, things I need to do for myself to keep myself healthy and safe and, sane. There's boundaries in society, right? I mean, if I run a red light, I'm going to get a ticket. So maybe I don't want to run that red light, but they're everywhere. So just give yourself some open up to the vastness of boundaries, and open up to the idea that they are there to help, not hinder, because the better I can place my own personal boundaries on myself, the better, the happier I am, the more energy I have, the better person I am, the more of me is available to give. So what seems to be icky actually is meant for good, eventually and at some point. Some of our family members who, got a lot going on, and you got to put that boundary between them because there's way too much hurt happening. Then, as that boundary is put in place, you work on whatever you need to and let them be and let them work on what they need to, and hopefully some clarity will happen, and eventually at some point in time it can be reintegrated. I've seen that happen in our family multiple times in multiple ways. So that's a healthy boundary, but it feels very unloving. How can that be the most loving thing to do when it feels so unloving? I think the times that, sometimes we need to be left to ourselves, to gain clarity, and sometimes that doesn't happen until we're, totally broken, and nobody's there to help us because we've hurt everyone in our path. And again, that's why I say reflection is so important, so that you can, a lot of times after all the damage is done is when we're able to kind of look around us and say, oh, what did I just do? Wouldn't it be great if I...
Technical issues, sorry about that.
Okay, so boundaries, and one of the things that happens with boundaries, the big thing that happens with boundaries is, especially with the unwilling, they're left to themselves, and that can be really scary, especially if you're, out of control, and now, nobody's kind of here to help you, and you're kind of left to yourself. But that's really what's needed. So be okay with that is a loving thing to do. And then there's a lot of fear of, what if so and so does this, or what if so and so does that, or what if so and so... It can be very fear inducing, but sometimes it's
the best thing you can do.
The best thing you can do, and kind of let again.
And yeah. Like I said before too, sometimes you'd be surprised at the result.
And responsibility, really what you're doing is you're giving them back responsibility for themselves. And that's a good thing. So, and lesson for yourself, be responsible for yourself. Understand where your responsibility lies, and where your responsibility ends and theirs begins. So
yep,
yeah,
I agree.
Okay,
I think that's
it. Is that today enough? I think so. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us on another episode of Siffany's Walk with Grace. Feel free to drop in the comments if there's a subject you want us to try to address, or you want us to focus more on something. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Okay.